Hey everyone, you ever get that feeling that you're just drowning in information, but at the same time you're starving for clarity? Well, that's pretty much the central challenge of our time. And our guide for navigating this crazy world is Yuval Noah Harari's brilliant and, honestly, provocative book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century.
So Harari kicks things off with this really powerful diagnosis. See, our problem isn't that we don't have enough information. Heck, we're swimming in it. The real issue is that we lack clarity. And history doesn't really give discounts. If the future is being decided while we're all too busy or confused to pay attention, we're still going to pay the price. So this quest for clarity, that's what we're all about today.
All right, to get to that clarity, we're going to follow Harari's path. We'll start with how our old certainties have collapsed. Then we'll face this technological tidal wave that's hitting us and see why our old solutions just won't cut it anymore. After that, we'll question our relationship with truth itself. And finally, explore where on earth we might find a new anchor in this chaotic world.
Okay, let's dive into the first big problem Harari points out, and it's a huge one that kind of underpins everything else. He argues that the grand stories, the big narratives that used to give humanity a sense of direction, they're gone.
This quote just frames our modern crisis so perfectly, doesn't it? He's not talking about small political shifts here. He's talking about the complete evaporation of the narratives that gave the world meaning. I mean, having one big story can be reassuring, but having zero? Well, that's just terrifying.
And you can really see this playing out across the 20th century. It started with these massive ideological battles, three competing visions for humanity's future. After World War II, it basically boiled down to a two-horse race: communism versus liberalism. By the 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, it really seemed like liberalism was the last story standing, the undisputed champion. But now, even that story's in crisis, leaving us in this frightening story vacuum.
So you might be asking, why did that last story crumble? Well, the liberal story of free markets and democracy promised a happy ending for pretty much everyone. But Harari points a big finger at the 2008 global financial crisis. That moment exposed some deep, deep cracks in the system. For millions of people, that promise of progress suddenly rang hollow. And the result, a huge global wave of disillusionment, a retreat from globalization, and a desperate search for anything else to believe in.
Now, into this vacuum, this empty space where our stories used to be, two massive forces are rushing in: the twin revolutions in infotech and biotech. And these aren't just changing our gadgets, they're changing what it even means to be human.
Okay, this next point is one of the most crucial ideas in the entire book. Back in the 20th century, the big fear for most people was being exploited, working in a sweatshop, being a cog in the machine. But in the 21st century, Harari warns, the fear is something else entirely. It's the fear of becoming completely irrelevant. And this leads to a really provocative and, let's be honest, deeply unsettling concept, what he calls the useless class. Now, he isn't trying to be insulting here. It's a cold, hard economic prediction. Think about it. Horses were pushed out of the job market by cars. In the same way, hundreds of millions of people could be pushed out by AI, not because they're being exploited, but because, from a purely economic view, they're just no longer needed.
Harari's not a Luddite, though. He absolutely sees the incredible promise of AI. Imagine an AI doctor on your phone that could give world-class healthcare to the poorest villages on Earth. Amazing, right? But he also sees the peril. As we hand over more and more of our decisions to algorithms, what to study, who to marry, who to vote for, we risk creating what he calls digital dictatorships, where our lives are run by systems that know us better than we know ourselves. Authority could literally shift from humans to code.
So, if liberalism is failing and technology is throwing these unprecedented challenges at us, can we just look to the past for answers? Can nationalism or traditional religion save us? Harari's answer is a very clear and resounding absolutely not.
And he points to three massive existential threats to prove his point. These aren't local problems. They are global crises that honestly just laugh at our borders. A virus, a carbon molecule, a cyber attack. None of them need a passport. And that means the only way to solve them is with global cooperation. Just think about that for a second. What can one single nation, acting all by itself, do to stop global warming? How does a my country first philosophy solve a problem that doesn't even recognize what a country is?
And the crucial point is, there is no nationalist answer. The nation-state is just the wrong tool for this job. The tiny island nation of Kiribati can't build a wall to keep out the rising sea levels. So nationalism, Harari concludes, isn't a solution to our biggest problems. It's actually part of the problem.
All this talk about broken stories forces us to deal with this really tricky issue of truth. I mean, we're all obsessed with fake news these days, but Harari makes this radical claim. Humanity has always lived in a post-truth world.
Now, check out this comparison. Harari argues that from a purely factual, scientific standpoint, what we call religion is basically a form of fake news that's been wildly successful for centuries. The key to its success isn't that it's factually accurate, but that it has the power to unite millions of people. Our ability to believe in shared fictions is what makes large-scale human cooperation even possible.
And right there, that's the central paradox of our species. The exact same ability that lets us build cities and empires, this shared belief in stories about things like gods, nations, money. That same ability also makes us incredibly vulnerable to manipulation. Fiction is basically humanity's superpower and its kryptonite.
So, if our old stories are broken, and our old answers are useless, and we're naturally wired to believe in fiction, where in the world do we go from here? Well, Harari's path forward begins not with a new, shiny story, but with a simple act of profound humility. He calls this the knowledge illusion. Think about a simple zipper. Seriously, do you know how it works? Like, could you actually explain the mechanics from scratch? Most of us can't, but we feel like we do. We basically treat the knowledge inside other people's heads as if it's our own. This reliance on groupthink makes us way overconfident, and the first step to real clarity is to just humbly admit how little we each actually know.
And this brings us to the final and honestly the most profound part of Harari's whole argument. He suggests the ultimate answer isn't to find a better story, but to learn to see reality directly, without any story at all.
This whole journey ultimately leads us right here, to the most fundamental question a person can ask. All the global problems, all the crazy tech disruptions, all the political crises, they force us, eventually, to ask, in the middle of all this chaos, who am I?
And here is Harari's radical answer. The self that we all believe in, that consistent person with a past and a future, is a fictional story that our minds are constantly writing and rewriting. Just like a nation is a story, our own identity is a story. And if we want to find out what's actually real, we have to look past it.
So, what is real if our stories aren't? Harari's answer is simple and direct: suffering. You can doubt God, you can doubt your country, you can even doubt your own identity, but you can't doubt pain when you feel it. Suffering, he says, is our anchor in reality.
This question right here forces us to make a really critical distinction. A nation doesn't have a body. It doesn't have a nervous system. It can't feel pain. It's a metaphor. But the people who believe in that national story, their suffering is 100% real. A soldier bleeds. A mother grieves. That is reality.
And that is the final lesson. The way out of this mess isn't another grand myth. It's the simple, difficult practice of observing reality as it is, and you start with your own mind. It's about watching how you, yourself, generate suffering and realizing, moment by moment, that you are not the story you keep telling yourself.
And so we end here with this final, thought-provoking question. Harari's 21 lessons don't really provide easy answers. What they do is give us a powerful new way to ask better questions. In a world of just overwhelming complexity and uncertainty, maybe the only way to find our way forward is to start with the one thing we can truly investigate: our own consciousness. Thanks for digging into this with me today.